For years, the U.S. Treasury struggled with a dwindling gold reserve, exacerbated by economic panic and political infighting over currency. By early 1895, the nation faced imminent financial collapse, with less than a day's supply of gold left. This is their first-hand account of J.P. Morgan's dramatic intervention to save the nation's credit. Less than a day's supply of gold. Think on that. Not a week, not an afternoon to spare. A single day stood between the United States of America and the collapse of its own credit. The vaults were running dry like a hollow log. The men who knew it best had sworn themselves to silence because the truth itself would have detonated the panic. And the President of the United States, Grover Cleveland, had set his jaw against the only man who could stop it. He would not see him. He would not deal with him. That man was Pierpont Morgan. And on a snowbound morning in February of 1895, he sat in a darkened room with a deck of cards and the fate of a nation's solvency in his hands. This is not a history lesson. This is their private account of the day the gold ran out.
Voice, middle-aged man. Male, middle. Mood, raspy, breathy. Urgent. Drives active, fast-moving drama. Add audio direction tags. Arc 1. The ladle in the law. The winter of 1894 into 1895. The Treasury is being swept by the tail of the Great Panic of '93. Gold is leaving. It does not stop. For more than a year, it bleeds out. And we who watch the books know the truth. We are about to suspend specie payments. The work of resumption, the credit we clawed back after the Civil War, is about to be miserably undone. Only a handful of us see it. Morgan, August Belmont, a few bankers. On the other side, President Cleveland and his Treasury men fight two wars at once. To keep the gold from running out, and to keep the public from ever finding out. Because if the country learns the truth, the blackest kind of panic follows. We are certain of it. Now, understand the trap. In 1895, there are 8 kinds of money moving through this country. Gold certificates, silver certificates, United States notes, Treasury notes, bank notes, gold coin, silver coin, the little token coins of nickel and bronze. All of them look to gold for their value, but not all by the same road. A gold certificate is simple. It stands for real gold locked in the government vault. But a United States note? That one rests only on the government's promise to pay coin if you bring it to the Treasury. January 1st, 1879. Specie payment resumes. For the first time, those slips of paper become as good as gold. We hold 150 millions in reserve against 350 millions in notes. Half of it more than enough. 100 million in gold. We thought it doubly, trebly sufficient. The notes would only ever come back for the banks or for shipment abroad. So we believed. But there is a joker buried in the law of 1878. Congress, afraid that redeeming notes would leave too little money about, slipped in one little direction. The Secretary must pay out and reissue every note that comes in. Do you see it? The same note can be brought back for gold again, and again, and again. No limit. One slip of paper becomes a ladle to empty the Treasury, scoop by scoop. An unconscious joker in the law, impossible to detect. Then, we would learn what it could do soon enough. Arc 2. The run on a hollow log. The 10 years after resumption were not lean. They glowed. The dam held and capital flowed. Energy, ideas, faith in the future. From Europe, the money poured in. Too much of it, as it proved. The flood sped American business beyond what was natural. Where one factory had thrived, now 2 or 3 clawed at each other to live. And still the money came, building more factories, more railroads. Then the pendulum swung back. Hot eagerness turned to stony dread. All but the wisest saw black, and by their blind, frightened actions, they made the very ruin they feared. That is how a panic is made. That was 1893. Meanwhile, Congress discovers silver. Out west, everyone is reading Coin's School of Finance, the book that teaches, schoolmaster fashion, the iniquity of the gold dollar. You see it on the trains, everywhere. A cow for the farmers, Wall Street the milkman, pinching the last drop from the faithful beast. And you hear them cursing the gold bugs with all their heart. Then comes the Sherman Law. The secretary must buy 4.5 million ounces of silver a month and issue notes redeemable in gold or silver at his discretion. It is disaster. Silver grows too plentiful, too cheap. The money sharps find the profit, trade the poorer metal for the better, and ship the gold abroad. In 3 years, before the law is even repealed, the Treasury loses near 150 millions in gold. We repealed it in June of '93. Too late. The capitalists are already frightened. They fear they'll be forced to take back in silver what they put in as gold. And now England and Europe ask for their money back, right away. Quick. They want gold, while there is still gold in America. And to get it, they sell us back the very shares they were begging to buy a year before. These sales build a mighty balance against us abroad. The price of exchange on London climbs and climbs, and the effect on the Treasury is technical, but as direct and vivid as a knife slash on your arm. When the balance runs against us, when there is nothing to draw against, exchange rises until gold itself must be shipped. And there is only one place to get that gold: the Treasury. So the gold disappears. No hurry. Slow, sure steps of decrease. Some shipped out of the country. Some hoarded by frightened banks and stubborn speculators. Twice Congress borrows 50 millions to refill the reserve. It does no good. It only points at the wound. The buyers borrow gold to pay for the bonds, swap the bonds for notes, then take the notes back to the Treasury and draw the gold right out again. Then, the middle of January, 1895, the reserve melts faster. 80 millions gone between December and February. By the last week of January, barely 40 millions left. The whole financial force of the country has joined one rash, unprecedented run upon a treasury that is becoming as empty as a hollow log. And the cruelest part, most of those 40 millions are not coin. They are bars. The demand is for coin. The bars stand at a discount. We cannot substitute them. That would betray the weakness we have sworn to hide. From Chicago, San Francisco, New Orleans, we gather up the last supplies. But the time and the means are lacking to block the climax. There is not a week's gold left. Not even that. Arc 3. A president who will not bend. A more tormenting situation has seldom been set before an honest executive. The truth cannot be laid bare, yet laying it bare is the very thing the president most wants to do. Cleveland is no financier. The high price of exchange, the vanishing gold, the slow weakening of national credit, these are as puzzling to him as to any citizen who is not a professional banker. But he holds one conviction, rising from the great office he bears, that relief must come from Congress and the people. On January 28th, he sends Congress an urgent special message. He writes, "The real trouble is the lack of confidence, widespread, constantly increasing, in the government's ability to pay in gold. The only way left," he says, "is to issue and sell bonds. But the only bonds we may issue were authorized near 25 years ago, and they are payable in coin, not specifically in gold. It is no longer certain we can sell even those at a price worthy of our credit." And here, the president names the joker in the law. The same notes do duty many times, drawing gold from the Treasury without canceling a single obligation, solely for the profit of those who ship it abroad or hoard it in fear. From Congress, in answer to his honest plea, nothing. The tom-tom clash of political antagonism, words without action, smoke without fire. Senator Vest rises, dramatic. "The president has declared war on silver. He would make us accessories," says Vest, "to fixing the gold standard upon us." He asks, "Can't the supposed emergency be met by paying in silver?" And then, hand high, "So far as I am concerned, I will never vote to issue bonds to secure gold, to place us on a single gold standard." That is the national legislature's answer to an honest appeal. Gold is a badge of oppression, and in England and Europe, the feeling spreads fast. Our case is hopeless. So the whole misfortune of the Treasury settles down, heavy and final, upon the head of the president, upon his head alone. But underneath all this, the wheels within wheels have begun to turn. On January 24th, August Belmont takes the night train to Washington. He calls on Secretary Carlyle the next morning. He describes the New York situation in phrases clothed in black. "Nothing," he says, "can forestall the crisis except selling government bonds in Europe." Carlyle is more politician than financier. Privately, he thinks a sale at home would do. He says nothing of it, only begs Belmont to sound out the European market and report back. A few days on, Carlyle sends his assistant secretary, William Curtis, to see Belmont in New York. Curtis has always been the man for confidential missions, but this one is heavier than any before. For at their parting, Carlyle says only this: "I have no instructions to give you. You know the situation. Do your best." Arc 4. What is Morgan doing? Curtis reaches Belmont's library and feels, at last, measurably relieved, out of the reporter's sight. The banker lays open his private cables, and there is nothing good in them. No coin bonds wanted. No courtesy to silver. Positively none. An out-and-out gold bond the foreign bankers would consider. But a majority of Congress will not consider that. Belmont's correspondents are the Rothschilds, caliphs of money and credit across the sea. Nothing in that direction can be done without them. He is gloomier than before. He advises Curtis, "See Mr. Morgan in the morning." Up to this morning, the 30th of January, Morgan has made no move. In the street, his silence is a mystery. Whenever gold shipments come up, one question goes round that no man can answer. What is Morgan doing? This morning he receives 2 messages. One, a note from Curtis, "Come to the sub-treasury for a meeting." The other, a cable from his London firm. The Rothschilds have called upon them, proposing the 2 firms act together, with Belmont, to prevent a catastrophe. Soon, Belmont walks in. He has had the matching cable. Morgan tells him plainly, he is ready to act as suggested. He proposes they go together to see Curtis. They go. Curtis states the case. The government desires to make such a negotiation as will secure the gold the Treasury needs. And Morgan answers him in his characteristic way, rapid, intense, certain. Affairs have gone so far, he says, that a crisis has arrived. The public mind is so full of anxiety that it would be absolutely impossible to secure gold by public advertisement. And unless the gold can be negotiated from the other side, from Europe, it would be useless. So far as my own advices are concerned, Morgan says, I will frankly say, it is very doubtful whether the gold can be secured in Europe, but an attempted negotiation is essential. Curtis asks, will they undertake it if the President and the Secretary request it? Morgan tells him he feels bound to do so. He will set down a basis during the day. Curtis can carry it to Washington. The memorandum demands one thing above all. A private contract is essential. No popular loan, under any circumstances. Curtis takes it to Washington. Up to this point, not one word has been said about price. Morgan said afterward, it was not really a question of price. It was a question of success. On Saturday, Curtis brings back a favorable answer. The bond terms are proposed. But that same day, between 5 and 6 millions of gold are taken from the Treasury and carried to the steamers, bound for Europe. There is less than a day's supply left. Then, toward evening, a remarkable thing. The news that Morgan has taken hold, that something will be done. It changes the feeling in financial circles in an instant. A large part of that gold is taken off the steamers and sent back to the Treasury. A mere rumor accomplished this, but only for the moment. Blondin has started over Niagara on his tightrope. Would he safely cross? Arc 5. The Blow and the Night Ride. The press knows something extraordinary is afoot, and they are suspicious. The secrecy galls them. They speak of dark lantern financiering. Is the president not delivering himself into the hands of the money interests to profit them at the nation's expense? There is loud talk of our grand national resources, of what the people would do given the chance. The New York World thunders that the president must put his foot down for a 3% loan. If the banks won't take it, the people will. And Cleveland has more than half a mind to put his foot down. He still has some faith in Congress. He is determined to depend on Congress. Carlyle, too, leans toward a popular loan. So it comes about that on Monday morning, when Morgan thinks the matter practically settled, a letter arrives from Carlyle. The Treasury has decided to abandon the private negotiation. They will depend on Congress for a popular loan. It is a blow. Morgan is absolutely convinced. A popular call for gold now would only react upon the Treasury in disaster. He does not lose a moment. He gets word to Carlyle at once. He urges him, do nothing until he and Belmont reach Washington. The secretary consents to wait one day. One day. Belmont starts at once. Morgan leaves on an afternoon train. With him goes his junior partner, Robert Bacon, and his lawyer, Francis Lind Stetson. Stetson, mind you, was once Cleveland's own law partner. The summons reaches Stetson just home from days away. It says only, there may be papers to be drawn, and I want you. The lawyer answers he would go on foot if necessary. He calls it a patriotic duty. In Washington, patriotic duty wears many confusing faces. Vest is still declaiming, the president has declared war upon silver. Our grand national resources, the faith of the people, all of it, to the front. And still, the Treasury sits empty. Tuesday morning. Morgan, Belmont, Stetson, with Carlyle, call upon the president. Morgan does most of the talking. He and Cleveland are old acquaintances. They smoked many a cigar together. But this morning the atmosphere is very different. Between them lies a profound difference of opinion. Cleveland is not a man to be carried off his feet by another's force. He has made up his mind. He will leave the matter to Congress. He will not change. Morgan, in his intense and rapid manner, lays out his plan and shows the necessity of each part. To him, it is clear as day. Success depends on selling bonds abroad. No other road brings gold that does not come from the Treasury itself. The president cannot find a flaw in the banker's argument, but he is not convinced. He will not agree to do anything. The meeting breaks up. A bill is in the House, the Springer Bill, for true gold bonds, not coin bonds. It only needs mentioning to loosen every tongue of discord. Platitudes about patriotism, our great wealth, gold the badge of infamy, the crime of 73, all offered. No action, not a dollar where it is needed. Thursday afternoon, the bill is brought to a vote and defeated. The world writes that the only thing left is a loan on the best terms obtainable, and that the harsh terms will be due to the willfulness and imbecility of Congress. The situation, held together only by the strength of a rumor, is now practically without hope. This is Thursday, February 7th. Sometime tomorrow, the Treasury will be forced to suspend payment. Unless a miracle intervenes, it is a certainty. Arc 6. Solitaire and Section 3700. The negotiations are terminated. No request has come for him to return to Washington. But Morgan knows, as every expert banker knows here and abroad, that the crash can be only hours away. When the market closes and the withdrawals are reported, he puts on his coat and hat, calls Bacon, and walks straight through the reporters without speaking. He takes a cab over the Cortlandt Street ferry and boards the Congressional Limited for Washington. The news of his going is telegraphed ahead at once. What his plan is, nobody knows. He felt only that it was his duty to go down and see the president once more, though he had not been bidden. He gets off the train, and to his surprise, Daniel Lamont, the Secretary of War, is waiting. Lamont tells him plainly, "Your coming was reported. The president has not changed. He will not consider a private bond sale, and he will not see you." Morgan hears him out. Then he answers. He has come to Washington to see the president. He is going to the Arlington Hotel, and he will stay there until he sees him. He hails a cab and drives off with Bacon into the storm. His arrival is quickly noised about. At once they come. Treasury officials, leaders in Congress, every man familiar with the disaster. All tell the same story. No action will come from the Capitol. For the Silverites, it is their opportunity. Their chance to see gold discredited, and in the wreck to follow, to put their own theories into practice. Every caller dilates on the peril, unloads his fears on Morgan. No one makes a suggestion. All evening it goes on. Morgan sits and listens and smokes, and says nothing. It is after midnight when the last caller leaves. Bacon goes to bed, and Morgan stays, working out a game of solitaire. The people in the hotel said later his light burned past 4 o'clock. But it was not only clubs and spades and diamonds that engaged him. There was one day's supply of gold left in the United States Treasury, and a plan had to be worked out to save the nation's credit. The morning is not auspicious. The sky is dark. A great snowstorm is blowing. At 9:30, over breakfast, Morgan tells Bacon the plan he evolved in the night over his cards. He remembers, back during the Civil War when he was a young man, Lincoln faced an empty treasury too. And Salmon Chase, then secretary, came to New York and gathered the bankers to find gold for the government. Out of those conferences came an act, passed in 1862, approved by Lincoln, empowering the secretary to purchase gold whenever the government needed it, paying in any authorized obligation at the best price he could make. Morgan tells Bacon he sold gold to the government under this very act in 1862 with the house he was then connected to. He thinks it is section number 4000 and something of the revised statutes. If it has not been repealed, it might still be in force. It might prove of value now. Before they finish eating, reports come in. Business has opened in New York. The run on the Treasury continues. The same news, that same moment, is reaching Carlisle and the White House. Then the telephone rings. Bacon takes the message. The president will see Mr. Morgan. Not even stopping to light his after-breakfast cigar, Morgan starts with Bacon across Lafayette Square, through the snow, to the White House. They find Carlisle there, Attorney General Olney, the whole administrative family already gathered. The president's greeting is short and formal. Morgan looks at him, sees he is not smoking. So Morgan does not light his own cigar either. He and Bacon sit down at what is destined to be a memorable conference. Carlisle gives the latest reports from the New York sub-treasury, where the fight is centered. Cleveland repeats his determination. No sale of bonds to a syndicate. Not otherwise. The discussion runs long. Bulletins keep arriving. The minutes grow into hours. Morgan, with everything at stake, sits quietly and listens. He is not asked to suggest anything. The president is still striving to find his own way out, without Wall Street, if he can. At last, a memorandum from a telephone message. Only $9 million of gold left in the New York sub-treasury. And at this point, Morgan breaks his silence. He says, "Mr. President, the Secretary of the Treasury knows of one check outstanding for $12 million. If this is presented today, it is all over." Carlisle had told him of that check the night before at the hotel. Morgan has held it in his mind every minute since. The secretary confirms it at once, and the president turns to Morgan for the first time and says, "Have you anything to suggest?" To a man who is used to saying, "Do this, do that," it had been an ordeal to sit silent. Now he talks fast. He tells the president of his recollection, of that section number 4000 and something. He has not read it in 30 years, but if it still stands, it gives Carlisle the same power Chase once had. At a word from the president, Olney steps out and returns in a moment with the book of revised statutes. He tells the president, "What Morgan said is perfectly true. It is section 3700, and on casual examination, he thinks it is still in force." Cleveland quietly takes the book from his hand. With deep concentration, he reads the act to himself. The words from March 17th, 1862. "The Secretary of the Treasury may purchase coin with any of the bonds or notes of the United States authorized by law, at such rates and upon such terms as he may deem most advantageous to the public interest." Everyone in the room sits in the silence of deep suspense. When the president finishes reading, he lays the book slowly on his desk, and then his face lights, almost a smile of relief. He says, "Mr. Morgan, I think the act is ample for our needs, and that it will solve the situation. The tension is broken." Arc 7, the guarantee and the ground cigar, in the rapid fire of question and answer that follows, The President and Morgan become the center. Only leaves to make a fuller report on the law. The President takes up with Morgan the terms under which his syndicate will furnish the gold. Morgan suggests buying enough gold to place $100 million in the Treasury, but the President thinks it wiser to buy a specific number of ounces. After consultation with Carlyle and his lieutenants, 3.5 million ounces is decided. The price is discussed and settled. $17.80 per ounce. That would place about 65 millions in the Treasury. The Secretary feels it will be sufficient. Sue.